Welcome back to X Squared Radio. I'm Brooks Agnew, your host. Mark Pinkham is my excellent guest. His book is Guardians of the Holy Grail. And what's your website, Mark?
It's www.gnostictemplars.org. And if you don't know how to spell Gnostic, it's Gnostic. So you run it together, gnostictemplars.org. And give you all information about our organization, the International Order of Gnostic Templars, and talk about our tours and our conferences. And one of the things we're trying to do as Templars is to unite East and West spiritual traditions together. We feel like that's what the original Templars were all about, and we are here to complete their mission. So we're having conferences in order to do that. We have one in Glastonbury coming up this summer, and we've got one in Sri Lanka coming up in February 2008. And you can come with us to these conferences.
Oh, that sounds exciting.
We'll give you all the information.
Yeah, that sounds great. That one in Sri Lanka, that sounds like it'd be great.
Well, a little bit about that, Brooks, is that part of the work that we do in our organization is try to trace back the lineage of the Templars as far back as we can. And what we found is it certainly goes back to John the Apostle, Mary Magdalene, Jesus, John the Baptist. But then we find out that John the Baptist was part of a very ancient lineage or ancient sect called the Mandeans. And the Mandeans today still exist. They're in southern Iraq. But they're the only surviving Gnostic sect from ancient times. And they say that John was, a great prophet, a great master of their tradition. But anyway, if you study the histories of the Mandeans themselves, they say they go back to Sri Lanka, you see. And so they're the lineage, if you will, that John and Jesus and John the Apostle were initiated into goes all the way back to Sri Lanka. And so I've gone there. I've gone there a couple times to investigate this. And what I found is that there's an ancient master. There's a temple city that's dedicated to this ancient master in Sri Lanka. And in the East, he's known as the founder of all the different alchemical and yoga traditions all over the world. And
Wow.
You've got Hindus, Muslims, and Buddhists all worshiping the same master. Right? And so it appears as though that tradition, the Holy Grail tradition, actually started with him and then went west. He's known as actually the first Kundalini master that ever taught the Kundalini path. And he's known as actually the first Fisher King, the first priest king of the world. All those things that are associated with the true guardian, the Holy Grail, he's that, And so we believe that it really started with him. He's also known as the Yan Pandita, the original teacher of Gnosis. So he's both the first Kundalini teacher, master. He's also the first Yan teacher, and they're Gnostic teacher. So he demonstrates that Gnosis and alchemy and yoga, they're two sides of the same coin, and he is the original master of both of those. And so we're going back to there. And so what I found since also, Brooks, is that he actually manifests in traditions all over the world, this one same master. He's kind of the link that links them all together. He's also Enki in the Mesopotamian tradition.
Oh, really?
Yes, absolutely. He's Al-Qadir in the initiator of the Muslim tradition. He's Dionysius, he's Osiris, he's Quetzalcoatl. He's actually the Masao, the ruler of the fourth world in the Hopi tradition. He is in traditions all over the world, and so he is the link that links them all together. So what we're going to do is bring representatives from all these traditions to Sri Lanka so they can compare and say, yeah, that's our link. Yeah, that's what unites us together. And hopefully by doing that, it's going to bring more peace and harmony to all the religions around the planet. And it's going to be one of the first steps in actually bringing them back together again, because I think that they all originated with this great being, this great master, and then they went to different parts of the world. Because something else is the Muslims say that Sri Lanka is the original Garden of Eden. It all started there.
So
they worship that as the original Garden of Eden.
What we're talking about here on X Squared Radio, I don't know if it's a world exclusive or not, but you're talking about really affecting the universe. You're talking about reuniting sects of religions that have fought each other for thousands of years, showing them a common root, and maybe precipitating from another way, not weaponry, but another way, world peace.
Absolutely. No question about it. That's exactly what we're trying to do through our Holy Grail Conference. The Holy Grail Conference is, I mean, this was obviously preceding that, but that was meant to be kind of the send-off of this information that this great master on Sri Lanka was and is the link of all these different traditions. He's the original Holy Grail himself. He's the original Fisher King. He's the original founder of all these different traditions. And when I speak at the Holy Grail Conference in Glastonbury, that's going to be his official coming out party, if you will, in the West. And then that's going to be followed up by the conference in Sri Lanka in 2008, where there's going to be a specific focus just on him and how he manifests in all these different traditions, you see. And so it is kind of an exclusive, at this time. And what we believe, that true religion, or the original religion, it wasn't religion, it was spirituality. It's true gnosis, right?
Right.
It became clouded over with dogma. That's all that constitutes any kind of religion is its own dogma. That's what ministers are for, is to perpetuate the dogma of that particular tradition. If you you shear away all the dogma, you've got pure spirituality. That's what you end up with. And we want to shear away all that stuff and take it back to pure spirituality. We believe that that's what existed in the Garden of Eden before Adam and Eve were expelled from the Garden of Eden. Pure spirituality, pure connection to a higher self, pure connection to God, direct link to that guidance all the time.
Wow.
And that's what we want to get back to.
Yeah, I think that's a tremendous thing. Now, who's invited to this conference?
Everybody.
Really?
Everybody's invited. Everybody that feels drawn to coming is invited. You're invited. Everybody is invited, because we're all about uniting everybody together. We're all about uniting all spiritual traditions together. We're not about excluding anybody. And so everybody who feels drawn to coming is definitely invited to come, and we hope a lot of people to come and support this.
Well, I feel drawn, so I'm going to try to make arrangements to be there, if maybe in Glastonbury in the summer, and in Sri Lanka in 2008, if it's in the cards.
Excellent. Well, let me tell you, you won't be disappointed. It's going to be a very, very powerful time. I want to say one more thing about Sri Lanka, Brooks.
Yeah.
Is that confirmation of Sri Lanka being the Garden of Eden? The second highest peak in Sri Lanka is called Adam's Peak.
Oh, really?
And and you climb up this Adam's Peak. It's a hell of a climb. I've done it. I probably will never do it again. But it's like something like 10,000 stairs, and some of them are nearly straight up. So you need to be in good shape for this thing.
Well, there are camping spots along the way, aren't there?
Oh yeah, it's great. There's also temples all along the way you can stop for worship.
Oh my gosh!
But since I'm not a Buddhist, and they're mostly Buddhist temples, I just kept going. And but it's actually, I would highly recommend, if you did stop as much as you can. But actually, what I found out is that the Sri Lankan people consider Adam's Peak to be such a holy mountain that a lot of them don't take the trek up the mountain until they think they're about to die. Because they want to die on the mountain, and they believe that that's going to actually give them an automatic ticket to heaven, or automatic enlightenment, or something along those lines.
Well,
and actually, I saw a woman that looked like she was definitely on her last leg. It looked like she was in her late 80s, and she was being helped up the mountain when I came back down. So.
Well, hopefully we get young people to go and become enlightened and advanced and gain this testimony, so they can come down the mountain and then run for office and try to change things.
Well, we can always hope, can't we?
Yeah.
Well, let me tell you what's up at the top.
Yeah, okay.
There's a huge rock, and indented into that rock is this gigantic footprint. It's about 4 or 5 feet long. And so everybody, is around this footprint. There's a big temple built over it. And they're saying, well, this is the footprint of Adam. This is where God set Adam in the Garden of Eden.
Wow.
Because this is the true Eden. See, the Muslims believe that the true Garden of Eden isn't even of this world. God set Adam and Eve in Sri Lanka because it was the closest thing to the real Eden, which isn't even of this world. It's of another dimension. It's of another world.
Yeah.
But according to the tradition is that when Adam and Eve first arrived here, Adam was placed in Sri Lanka, and Eve, I think, was placed in Mesopotamia someplace. And then Adam did some penance. He actually stood on one foot for something like 100 years, which is why there's only one footprint. And then after that, he went and collected Eve, brought her back to Sri Lanka, and started it all off. Started off the whole cycle of creation. But the whole scenario, scenario of the Bible, it appears to be in Sri Lanka, which is interesting because if you study more of that tradition, after Adam was placed on that hill, that mountain, Adam's Peak, he climbed down the mountain and he wandered around a little bit, trying to find the right place to settle down. And eventually it said that he settled down in the place called Katagama. Katagama is the place where this great master is worshipped today, where Hindus, Buddhists, and Muslims all worship this great master. And they call him the original teacher, the Jan Pandita, the founder of the Gnostic tradition. But something else, they also worship him. See, the Gnostics worship him as the original instructor of humanity, the original Kundalini power, and so he is that kind of that serpentine power. To them, the whole image of the serpent on the cross, of the serpent on the tree in the Garden of Eden, same with the yogis in India. It's a total metaphor. It represents the spine, the human spine, and the Kundalini serpent on the spine. And this is what the Gnostics knew. They knew that he was the original instructor of Adam and Eve. He instructed them essentially by awakening their own inner Kundalini evolutionary force. And it was that force that opened them up to Gnosis, the understanding of the world, of the universe and themselves. And they were able to pass on that knowledge to their descendants. Adam is considered to be the first of the Gnostic teachers.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of history there.
Yeah, and I have read a lot about that multidimensional aspect or even off-planet aspect of the Garden of Eden. I co-authored a couple of books myself, and we talk about that.
For one thing, Brooks, it's definitely on another. It could be another realm, but I think it's also another dimension here, right here on Earth.
Yeah, I think so too. And in fact, I don't know if you know a little bit about the North Pole Inner Earth expedition. There's a fair faction as leader of this expedition. I'm trying to unite the clans, and some of them are quite religious in nature, and they actually believe that the Garden of Eden might be multidimensional and in the inner Earth.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've actually done a lot of studying on the inner Earth recently because I'm writing a book on giants, because that's supposed to be one of the main places the giants live today. That during the time of early cataclysms, a lot of the Lemurian, Atlantean giants actually entered in the inner Earth, and supposedly they still exist there. Absolutely.
I might have to make a spot for you on this boat when we go later on this fall.
Okay, I'd appreciate that.
It's a once in maybe twice in a lifetime. We don't know how popular it's going to be, but definitely at least once in a lifetime chance to go to a place that's never been visited by a civilian ship before. And
you're going out to what? Or up to the Arctic Circle?
Yeah, we're going up to the Arctic Circle. We're going up to about the 80th parallel. I don't want to give the exact location because, it just kind of sets up opposition.
Yeah. All right.
And try to go up with the most open mind that we can. It's certainly a scientific expedition, and it's also for entertainment, but because we're going to be shooting a lot of film, and hopefully we'll get a great documentary out of it. But we're also going to try to raise the consciousness of the boat to a very high level, like you might find in a typical workshop. Only it's 13 days long, and it's 800 miles away from the nearest piece of land. So it's going to be quite unique, and we might be in the right place at the right time for something to happen.
And when are you going to embark on this?
Well, I can't give you the exact day, but it is going to be in the fall. I'll say it's in the month of August. And if you want, I'll keep you posted as to exactly when.
Yeah, it sounds very interesting. Definitely,
and it would be great.
I mean, I'm totally sold that the original sons of God, the original patriarchs, the original occupants of this planet, where they were giants. There's no question. I mean, that's why Adam's footprint is 5 feet long. I mean, he was apparently like 30 feet tall.
Yeah.
The original occupants, they were all giants. There's no question. It's even in the Bible. It talks about how we were much bigger before, how we lived much longer. It's in the yugas of India and the different Satya, Treta, Dwapar Yuga. We were much taller. We lived much longer. And even recently, I don't know if you know that, but there's because of the tsunami on the west coast, or the east coast of India, apparently it uncovered some bones, and they're looking at these bones very carefully right now because it looks like they could be the bones of a man that's like 30 feet tall.
Oh, that sounds wonderful. I definitely we're living in the right time. You and I,
Absolutely, yeah.
We're being
a
exposed.
lot of the mysteries are going to be come to light at this time.
Well, that's what this program's all about: the mysteries of the universe and of the earth. Let's get back to alchemy just a little bit. Alchemy, it appears, is greatly concerned with numbers. And, what are some of the important numbers in alchemy, and what do you think their origin might be?
Well, certainly, the 5, the 13, and some of the Fibonacci sequence, actually. 5, 8, and 13. 8 is definitely number 13. 9 is actually number 2. They're... recently we went on a pilgrimage to the different chakras of Europe that now have people placed over them. And all of them have a lot of alchemical symbology. And one of them is Notre Dame in Paris, and it has the goddess in front, and she's actually sitting next to a ladder. It has 9 levels set to it. And she's holding the Book of Alchemy in her hand. So apparently there was 9 stages, in creating the alchemical elixir. But there was also, of course, the 13, which is Hermes' tablet, the Emerald Tablet 13.
Let's see, Emerald Tablets.
Which is why throughout history, 13 has always been the number, supposedly the unlucky number of death. But that's, if you're not looking at it from the spiritual standpoint, it's a death leading to a new life, spiritual rebirth. But of course, the number 5 is definitely they're actually numbers of Venus. All these different numbers. I don't know if you knew that or not, but
no, I didn't. I recently went through a book by David Horowitz called the Real Da Vinci Code, and he really goes into the numerology of words and names. And it appears that great names like Mary Magdalene and other names have divine power or completeness to them. I recently understood that the name Mary Magdalene is more of a mantle than it is her lineage, and it totals to the number 153. And that is supposedly a very powerful number as well.
Definitely. But going back to Venus. It's in a cycle with the Earth. It takes 8 years.
Right.
I mean, they're conjunct, and then they separate, and they come back together in eight years. But during that 8 years, the Venus conjuncts the Sun at different points and creates this perfect 5-pointed star in the heavens, symbol of the goddess. But during that time that Venus is creating this 5-point star, it's going around the Earth 13 times. So you got 5, you got 8, you got 13.
Right.
They were all numbers of alchemy. One of the most important numbers for the Templars was 8. They a lot of their information started by studying the Dome of the Rock, which is on the Temple Mount, because they were given the Alaska Mosque to live in by King Baldwin II, which is right next to the Alaska Mosque, and so they hung out there quite a bit. And you see, the Dome of the Rock is built around the what they call the rock of foundation. In those days, it was considered to be the rock in the center of the earth. It was the rock that united heaven and earth together. It was the rock that Muhammad ascended into heaven, right? And so it held Holy Grail properties, or alchemical properties, because that's what you're trying to do. Is you're trying to unite heaven and earth together, right? The polarity. And so it had these Holy Grail properties. So some believe actually today even that's the original Holy Grail, is because it was also known as the Great Stone in one of the texts. But anyway, in order to enhance the energy of that stone, an octagon was placed around it. This Dome of the Rock, 8-sided structure.
That's like sacred geometry, right?
Exactly. It's got the 4 and the 4. Look at the Arabic 8. It's got 2 circles representing, the top circle is heaven, the lower circle is earth. It's also 8 is 4 and 4. 4 is a square representing an earth in some symbology. So you have two earths, or you have two worlds together, 4 and 4. So it was the 8. You see, that was one of the primary numbers of alchemy, and this is why the Templars actually built so many of their preceptories as octagons. And they were actually the ones behind the Holy Sepulchre church, because it was really in ruins when they showed up during the First Crusade, and they rebuilt it in the form of an octagon. Through having studied with the Sufis, especially there was a sect called the Albana, which was kind of the Sufi Freemasons, if you will, and they taught them a lot about sacred geometry.
Where do you think that stone came from that's in the Dome of the Rock?
Well, it's a gigantic stone. I mean, it's not like the stone in Mecca, which was meteorite, which was placed into the Kaaba. I mean, this is it could have fallen from heaven. I mean, the legend is that the stone of heaven fell from heaven. It actually came out of Lucifer's crown when he was fighting with Saint Michael, and fell to earth, and that's the original stone of heaven. Well, from one perspective, Lucifer was a giant in heaven, and Michael was giant, and so his crown was giant. So when that stone fell from his crown, it was huge, and it became the what they call the Ibn Setia, the stone of foundation in Jerusalem. And so it ended up there during the earliest times of Earth's creation. So it's been there a long time. There's also other legends. There's the Persian legend of Alborz, which is actually a mountain that's supposed to be completely made out of emerald. And one of the legends about Lucifer is that the stone in his crown was an actual emerald. And so the Persians believe that is the true stone of heaven. So for every tradition, you've got different ideas about what is the stone of heaven.
Well, isn't that what the tablets of Thoth were made out of? Were emerald, were they not emerald tablets?
Well, that's absolutely right. Yeah, and of course, the emerald, being the green, being the middle color, is not chemical to it, because it unites the polarity together. And I believe that just by sitting in proximity to that tablet, you can imagine this huge emerald tablet. Just by sitting in proximity to that, it would actually stimulate the process of awakening of the Kundalini and alchemical unfoldment just by sitting in front of it. So there's no question why emerald would have been used to create that tablet that had the 13 precepts of alchemy written on it.
Well, is that the root of the knowledge of the Templars, or do they predate the tablets of Thoth?
Well, it is kind of a manifestation of this being in the East, this first Kundalini master, if you will. He's one manifestation of him in the West, because this Thoth is both. He's the divine mind, but he's also the transformative fire, if you will. As Thoth, he's the divine mind. As Hiram or Chiram, he's the transformative fire. He's the master builder. Basically, he's just a manifestation of that energy in the East that started that whole Holy Grail tradition. So they couldn't really predate him. He's been around forever.
Right. Well, are the tablets emerald, or are they Moldavite?
I would say emerald.
Okay.
Because that's what you find over and over again in the traditions. They talk about them as being emerald. If they were meteorite, I think they would have said meteorite.
Yeah.
So I think that they really are emerald.
Yeah, emerald's not that rare of a stone, of a jewel on this planet, but it is rare in big size.
Right. I mean, time and time again, you hear that the original stone of heaven was an emerald that was lodged in Lucifer's crown, came loose when he fought Archangel Michael, and then fell to earth. And so I think that the original stone, the original Holy Grail stone on this plane, I think it really was emerald. And I think maybe it did become the tablet of Hermes.
So do you think that tablet holding those secrets of maybe how to rebuild a world after cataclysms? Do you think that's where the original root of the Templar?
Back far enough, if you, yeah, I think that it's Thoth, Hermes. He's an archetypal energy. You see, he's the energy of alpha. He is energy. He is alchemy. You know, I mean he and his tablet, he and the process of alchemy. He is that energy. He is that alchemical energy.
Wonderful.
Just like. Hello?
Yeah. I just we have a caller on the line, and maybe you can give us your first name and where you're calling from.
I'm calling from Northern California, and I am Ann Card, who has emailed you quite a few times.
Oh, yes. Hi, Ann. How are you?
Hi. I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing great.
I just found out the other day that you're in Kentucky, so I can't very well come and see you unless I can teleport.
Yeah, that technology's...
Yeah, well, I'd love to get together with you somehow, but I don't know how. Just to talk inner earth stuff.
Yeah, well, do you have a question for our guest, Mark Pinkham?
Well, to tell you the truth, I just came in the house and knew you'd be on the radio, and I haven't been listening. What is he talking about?
Well, bless your heart. We're talking about the book Guardians of the Holy Grail, and we're talking about Thoth and all kinds of ancient mysteries, and yes, even the inner earth. So if you've got a real quick question, you can lay it on us, and we'll do our best to answer it.
Well, when Admiral Byrd went in, he was not allowed to speak about what he did, and apparently that after he died, his son has written a book about it. And I wanted you to feel secure about these beings being beautiful that are there within in the inner earth, and so not to be afraid. And what is the? I mean, I'm kind of ancient. Any chance of going on that trip?
Well, there's always a chance, you know. Even though this is a nuclear-powered icebreaker, it is somewhat very comfortable. It has a swimming pool on the inside, and you don't have to go outside in the 20 below winds and the 120-foot seas.
Well, one question I wanted to ask you is, did you read The Smoky God?
Yes.
That book. You did?
Yes, of course.
Oh, you did. Okay, good. I'm glad you did. So you're feeling perfectly secure. Well, I won't keep your time, but I'm just happy to hear you, and hope that sometime I can talk to you, really.
Well, next time I'm out in California, I'll definitely let you know in advance, and we can get together.
Yeah. Okay. You email me.
Oh yes, absolutely.
And I'll come to you. I mean, I'm 84, so don't be afraid of me. I'm okay, but I still drive, and so I would definitely come to wherever you are.
Quite all right. Thank you very much for the phone call.
Yes. Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye. All right, Mark. Every once in a while, you never know where the calls are going to come from, and that's just fine. You guys can call anywhere in the world, toll-free U.S., toll-free Canada, or even off-planet or inside the planet. If you can reach a cell phone tower, you can reach us. The phone numbers are on the front page of bbsradio.com or x2radio at x2-radio.com. And my guest is Mark Pinkham, and we were talking about Thoth and the Emerald Tablets and the roots of the Templars. And
Right.
I was going to ask you a question. What does it mean to be alchemically active in the body?
Well, that means basically having awakened that inner energy. I mean, my whole path, way before I got involved with Templars, has been involved with awakening that energy. I was in India when I was 21 and living in an ashram there that was headed by a guru, a master, a teacher. That the whole path started when he transmitted some of his power, his Kundalini power inside of you, and awakened your energy. And so I was seeing all around me all the time and experiencing, the awakened Kundalini and all the different manifestations of it. And certainly, when it is awakened, it does all the work of transforming you on all different levels. And one of the first manifestations of it is a distinct sort a fire, because anytime it encounters any blockage on any level, it burns through it. So you can feel a lot of heat in your body. You can also feel like there's kind of a thumping or an ache around your coccyx, base of your spine, where that energy is awakened. I mean, these are the first manifestations. You might get psychic visions, and you might get different other manifestations as the different chakra centers become open. But ultimately, it leads to gnosis. You start knowing things that you didn't know before. They just kind of happen within you. You just kind of wake up to the truth, and you just know it to be the truth.
Well, how does this awakening begin? What you said you were on a path, and we have 12 million listeners over a week's period that are going to hear this. Some people sitting at their computers on Monday morning. How would they awaken it? What do they have to go to Sri Lanka to do it?
No. They don't have to go anywhere. You just look at the Pentecostal church, some of these charismatic Christian churches. I mean, they call forth the Holy Spirit, right? Come into me, awaken me, bless me, work through me. Well, the Holy Spirit is just a manifestation of the Kundalini in the West. And what do they start doing? They start writhing in their seats, and they start speaking in tongues. These are all manifestations that I saw in the East, in India, with people with Kundalini awakening. Same thing. So it can happen anywhere. A lot of it depends on, according to Masters in the East, your own destiny. You are destined to get that energy awakening. This is going to happen. And if you're destined to do it, it's going to happen any place. It can happen spontaneously any place. Usually, it could happen in many different environments, many different circumstances. For example, people come to Sedona, and they get their Kundalini activated here because of the strong power of the vortexes. It's amplified by the red rocks, which are full of iron, which are full of crystal. It's just like a gigantic meteorite sitting on top of the vortexes here. That's one way of doing it. But a lot of people get it naturally awakened by getting very much involved with yoga and meditation practices. Day in and day out, they are practicing their yoga, and spontaneously at some point it awakens. Or this is also very common in their dream state. What comes is a huge serpent. It comes and bites them on the finger, or bites them someplace in the body, or maybe enters their body. And at that point, that energy is awakened because it's a serpentine energy. So there's many ways of doing it. Just to the repetition of mantras, sacred syllables. Mantras in the East are of the Sanskrit language, a very sacred language that will vibrate in that root chakra, vibrate in that base of the spine and awaken Kundalini. But it's believed that the safest way of getting that energy awakened is through a master, like I did, because the master, once he or she awakens that energy within you, they can control it, they can guide it up the spine. And some people have some very wild experiences. They see things that, they think make them feel like they're going crazy, and they can't handle it. But if you have a guru, then the guru or the master can control the Kundalini and protect them or take them out of that kind of experience if it gets to be too crazy for them or more than they can handle. You see, so it really that's the best thing is to have, in my mind, is to have a master, not try to do it on your own. But of course, masters are everywhere. The vibration of masters are on different levels. They're everywhere, and so if you were really sincere and you want that energy awakened, you can do that anytime, any place.
Wow. All right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. I think we have a caller on the line. Caller, your first name and where you're calling from.
This is Shahela, and I'm calling from Tennessee.
Oh, hi, Shahela.
I'm neighbors to you.
Well, that's great. Welcome aboard.
I'm that girl. If I ever get my behind in gear, we'll be doing the show, People in Fur Coats.
Yeah.
CBS. Anyway, I was talking to another talk show host on BBS this afternoon, and he was really kind of at a loss. And since this seems to be your expertise, sir, could I catch your name again? I'm sorry.
Oh, well, this is
not you, Dr. Brooks, your guest.
Mark Pinkham. He's the author of Guardians of the Holy Grail, the Knights Templar, John the Baptist, and the Water of Life.
Wow. Yeah, I just tuned in. I kind of missed the first hour of the show. But
That's all right.
In the last 30 minutes is very intriguing. But I have a case myself, and I'm going to share it with you if you'll indulge me a minute.
Yeah.
That's happened to me in the last 48 hours that's really strange. But maybe because this is, Mark, your expertise, you might be able to put some clarification on this.
I'll see what I can do.
I love it.
Yesterday morning, I awoke, and I'm very clairvoyant, very spiritual. A lot of people tell me this. I think they think I'm more than I think I am, but that's neither here nor there. Always have been able to know and sense when things were going to happen. It was getting people to believe it was the problem. Because, we always get blowed off as woo-woos. But anyway, maybe that time is changing. But when I awoke yesterday morning, all of a sudden this knowledge had been downloaded into my mind about our off-world ships. And I understood at that point exactly how they operate on the reverse electromagnetics. And actually, it's been so fast, the reverse magnetics, that it creates a vortex inside where the ship is at. And that's why you'll actually find that when you're inside the ship, even though it's spinning at these unbelievable rates, you have stability within the inside of that ship. And what was shown to me was that it's the same concept of our hurricanes and our tornadoes. Inside the vortex is calm and quiet, while you have all this rotation outside. Now, I'm not an engineer. I don't have anything to do with that. I don't know why all this was shown to me. I could go into a lot more detail, but that's enough for the show tonight. So then when I got up, this is what I woke up to. I went in the bathroom and to wash my face, and I look on my forehead. Now, I have an indentation in my third eye. I have had since I was a little girl.
Uh-huh.
But inside that indentation, I have the perfect mark of a pyramid. It's outlined in red now. It doesn't go away. It's been there for 2 days.
Wow. So
Anybody want to help me with this?
Yeah, what do you think happened? Do you think that you were shown something, or do you think your third eye opened up and saw something?
I think I might have had an off-world experience. It's not the first time they've come and got me.
Wow. Well,
hopefully the white coats don't come and get me tonight for saying that.
Well, it sounds like to me, if you want, my input, that obviously you've got some special connection to some extraterrestrial culture, and they are revealing a lot of information to you. Those kind of things just don't come out of nowhere, and so obviously you've been given some special information for some reason, and if you don't know what it is, I'm sure it'll be revealed to you in the future, because they wouldn't just give you that information for no reason and just let you go. And I've been downloaded with information like that myself, and sometimes it's been kind of confusing at first, but then eventually you realize, why you were given it and what the purpose of it is. So my suggestion to you is just hang in there, and you'll know what to do with it. That circumstances will arise that you'll be able to use that.
What I just explained to you about the vortexes and the anti-gravity spinning, because you are a scientist, does any of that make any sense to you?
Well, it does a little bit. I did some calculations on black holes, and in the first book, The Arc of Millions of Years, and we talk about that. The physics community for, I don't know, the last 20 years has been fairly convinced that black holes exist, and that maybe they lead to wormholes, and that wormholes are supported on the inside by exotic material, which is made from neutron stars. But the calculations show that kind of wormhole collapses in on itself, actually, before it's even formed. So I went back to the drawing board and sort of came up with the same thing that you did, that black holes are actually made of spinning matter around the inside of the event horizon, but leaving a void in the center. However, it's a very strong gravitational, like tornado hole, like a wormhole. And that those things can be stable for millions, perhaps billions of years, and they actually make windows between dimensions or different areas of the universe, and craft or even planets can use these to move from dimension to dimension or across parsecs of space. But that's just a theory, but it sure seems to fit with your dream really well.
That's what they were wanting to show me, was that's how they're able to navigate and get here in the timely fashions that they do from light years away. And the better way to explain for us, because we're in 3D right here, right now, is that they gave me the vision of the tornado circular spin and the calm vortex inside. That's what it was.
Wow. I'm
Because
glad
I
you
had asked the
called.
question.
I'm glad you called.
Yeah, thank you, dear.
All right. Thank you very much. Well, yeah, Mark, getting back to her question and your comment and something that you said about a download. I've had my own experience, which I don't want to go and take up a whole bunch of time tonight, but you can always go back and listen to archives and hear it. But I got a download, much like what you're talking about, and it didn't make any sense to me at the time. And as time goes on, little bits and pieces of that become clearer and clearer. And you're saying that happened to you as well?
Yeah, I did actually. It was some years ago when I was heavily into crystals, and at the time, everyone wanted to acquire their own what they call record keeper, because these are special crystals that were planted that were supposed to be full of this ancient wisdom. And I found one that had all the markings of record keeper, and I kept it near my bed at night. And at night, I would have these incredible dreams of flying saucers and extraterrestrials and things. And
are they special markings?
Well, it was more like, I couldn't really remember that much when I woke up. It was almost like, well, one dream that I had, it was actually the spaceship kind of entered inside me, and from that point on, I felt a lot more of a connection to extraterrestrials, and it kind of prepared me for my shamanic studies down in Peru. I apprenticed with the shaman down there for 3 years, and we used a kind of a cactus to awaken our consciousness, and he believed that cactus actually came from Venus, and every time that he did it, he would have these encounters with Venusians, and so I've had a couple encounters myself, and I felt very much more connected. I'm sure I felt a lot more connected to them than I would if I hadn't had that original experience with the crystal.
So were there markings on the crystal itself?
Yeah. There was a pyramid marking on a crystal. Just like when she talked about pyramid over a third eye or triangle over a third eye. It was kind of similar sort of markings. Yeah.
Well, I was going to just toss this in here. It happened last night. I had a dream, or maybe it was early this morning. I don't know, but I had a dream that I was walking along and there was a snake in the grass, and it was rather thick and rather long, and I couldn't tell whether it was poisonous or not. So I asked the person who was standing next to me, "What is that snake?" And they said, "Well, it's just a boa, so it's not going to be poisonous, but they do have teeth." And it had very strange markings on its back, like a figure 8, and then some kind of question mark underneath it, and I didn't know what it was, but I had a stainless steel blade in my hand, so I just kind of waved it over the snake, and it went away. I have no idea what it meant.
Well, my take on that is that the Native Americans and actually other people around the planet, they think that the snakes are actually physical manifestation of pure energy, and pure energy has a code attached to it. At the beginning of time, pure energy was created with a certain code, and that code was basically the formula of the evolution of energy from that point on, right? And so actually, physical snakes gives you a lot of information about the unfoldment of energy from the very beginning of time, and about energy in general. Well, the Mayans and the tribes in Central America, they took some of the geometrical forms and designs on rattlesnakes, and they created their whole entire calendars around that, because those calendars, all calendars are all about the unfoldment of energy, and so they learned about all cycles of unfoldment through studying the back or the geometrical formations on the back of rattlesnakes, and they design their whole calendars around that.
Well, I know that
So
the Ouroboros is a sort of a serpent dragon that swallows its own tail.
Well, that's it. That's the symbol of how the cycles keep going, and at some point he devours his own tail. So he actually destroys himself, and then he becomes reborn. So energy is destroyed, and then it's reborn in the new cycle.
Sort of like the phoenix.
So you could be actually been shown some information about energy. Maybe what was the symbol you said you saw?
Well, it looked like maybe the infinity symbol, and then underneath it was kind of looked like a question mark or an S or something like that, but it was on the snake's back.
Mm-hmm.
I thought, boy, that's a really strange marking.
All right. Well, of course, the infinity symbol is also the symbol of 8, symbol of alchemy, which is a point in the evolution of matter. 8 is the point. 8 is the point when the upper world, lower world comes together. Polarity unites together in one. When heaven and earth meets earth in this cycle of 9, right? Because after that happens, then the 9 comes, which is the end of the cycle. Because in 8, you basically completed the cycle, and the 9 you can leave this plane. So it's describing that particular stage. This is why 8 is also the symbol of alchemy, by the way, because 8 is also a symbol of the infinity, and through the union of the polarity, you become immortal, you become infinite.
Wow, it's strange that you should use those words, because in both volumes of the Arc of Millions of Years, we have a chapter called The Union of the Polarity, and we talk about that very thing. It's just very strange to hear someone else say it. It's very cool. Well, listen, I want to go back to just as we finish up this second hour, we were talking about crystals or stones. When I've heard people say that when crystals are placed on the back of the body, that they actually move the alchemical force in the body that you call the kundalini from the base of the spine to the top of the head. How is this accomplished? How do crystals and various stones interact with the energy of the human body?
Well, basically, if you're going to awaken Kundalini, you have to basically move it at its level. As I mentioned with the meteorites, the meteorites work on the electromagnetic field, as will all stones. They'll work on the electromagnetic field. But if you move the energy on one level, you're going to move it on other levels. This is why if you heal somebody on a physical level, you're also healing them on other levels. Stuff on other levels that needs to be healed is going to come up, right? And so this is the level that Kundalini exists in, the etheric body, is very closely connected to the electromagnetic field. So if you move the energy in one, you can often move the energy in the other. And this is also what's known as the prana body. This is the body of meridians that the acupuncturists work with, and this is called the nadis in India, the subtle energy vessels that prana, the chi, flows within. It's the same body, because the Kundalini is actually, it's a chi, it's a prana, it's a life force, it's a higher frequency of that generally. It's a more conscious frequency, if you might say, with a specific purpose, that it goes ahead and does when it's awakened. But certainly crystals, the good thing about crystals is that they're either single terminated or double terminated, and so you can direct the energy in accordance to the termination. And this is why crystals are often used. But they also have kind of a fiery energy associated with them, and you'll find that this very, very, very active energy. They On the subtle level, they're made of tetrahedrons. It said, and that's kind of one of the 5 platonic solids associated with fire, and so it has that fiery energy already, and so the fire itself of the crystal in some way can go to awaken your inner fire, which is Kundalini energy. You see, so there's many ways of looking at that. Also, that the termination, the top part of the crystal, oftentimes is the same angle as the angle of the Great Pyramid, and the Great Pyramid. Generates fire within. It's a pyramid, fire in the middle, and this is why it was used as an initiation chamber. You go in there, you're surrounded by fire, and awakens your own fire.
I never thought about that.
There's a number of different ways that a crystal can awaken the fire, awaken Kundalini, as you can see.
Well, I never thought about the word pyramid meaning fire in the middle, but I see it now that you say it.
Right, exactly. Well, it's uniting the polarity together. It's in the ancient times the triangle is often represented as spirit. It's the Trinity, and then the square, of course, is matter, and uniting spirit and matter together, heaven and earth together, and by doing that, you are generating the life force. What you're doing basically is you are accelerating the frequency of matter to that of fire, and so you're creating that fiery energy within, which is also prana, which is also chi, which is why they put the sarcophagus there, because the prana, the chi, will preserve the mummies better that way. You see.
Well, I heard that they didn't actually bury people in the Pyramid of Giza, that was actually a place where an ascension initiation took place. They put you in the sarcophagus.
Well, you're absolutely true. You're absolutely right. They never actually found a mummy in any of the big pyramids in Egypt. Apparently they were all initiation chambers.
Yeah, you just were exposed to concentrated amounts of
that fire, if you will, that Kundalini fire, and the priest of Osiris, who facilitated the initiation, he would speak the words of Thoth, and Thoth is, of course, he's the fire himself. He is the divine mind and the fire himself, which would go to essentially activate that energy. Elizabeth Hake, I guess her name, wrote that book on initiation, where she remembered her past life in Egypt when she went through that initiation, and she was in the sarcophagus of the Great Pyramid, and there was this priest over her chanting these the words of Thoth, and she had that typical Kundalini activation, and that's what happens. We've actually been in the King's Chamber a number of times, and we have people in the sarcophagus, and they've had classical Kundalini activations with that sarcophagus.
Wow, I
so
heard
it does work as an initiation chamber. Yeah,
I heard they actually moved the sarcophagus off of its original location to keep that Fibonacci spiral from focusing right on the sarcophagus, just because people would get in the darn thing and have these sort of out-of-body experiences.
Well, let me tell you this: people are still having them, because I had one myself.
Oh, wow!
A lot of people still have them. Yeah, they must not have moved it enough. People still have these amazing experiences.
Oh, I definitely want to hear about that in the next hour. I know here on X Squared Radio we go places that most hosts don't go, but we just kind of go with the flow, where we're inspired. I love your book, and we're sort of pacing our way through the book, but you are the book, really, Mark, and we're trying to get you
that's true.
To come alive. You've already made a world exclusive here, that world peace, that whole paradox is about to be cracked open in the next 6 months through bringing all these religious leaders. And I don't think there's anyone that listens to this program that thinks that all of the wars in this world aren't religious in basis right now.
Well, of course, yeah. Well, there was no mistakes, and for whatever reason, I was, meant to come on and announce it.
Fantastic. In the last 3 minutes of this hour, we do have a caller on the line. Another one. Your first name and where you're calling from, please.
I'm sorry. This is Gail back. You guys were talking about the Kundalini.
Yeah.
And were you guys aware that back in March of 2006, shortly, at the Body, Mind, and Spirit Expo in San Diego, there's a gentleman that was there named Renan Shahar. He's the founder of the New Dawn Clinic, and he had just came from Switzerland. And they do a process called Atlas Prophylax that realigns the top spinal vertebrae, and it's the C1, or it's called the Atlas one. And they said 99% vertebrae is out of alignment, and it blocks the Kundalini from being able to go up the spine totally to the brain, to the third eye. and upon manipulating that with some kind of a probing thing, they use chiropractic terms. There are some doctors now being trained to realign this, but they said statistically this C1 or Atlas vertebrae, it's impossible for it to have this displacement. It's not a simple result of physical trauma. And they believe that when, there's the stories about the Anunnaki creating humans, to do slave labor and all that this might perhaps be how they blocked us from having a full Kundalini awakening. And I'm just curious, Mark, if you've heard anything about that.
I haven't really, but, the tradition I come out of is that when the Kundalini is awakened, it does everything that it needs to do in order to make its path clear so that it can rise up to the top of the head, the Sahasrara, thousand-petal lotus. And so if it needs to make any correction in the cervical spine, it would do that. So perhaps it's true, and perhaps the Kundalini does that work on its own when it is awakened. So, but no, specifically about that, I haven't heard that.
Okay. Yeah, I found that really interesting. You can read more about it by going to www.goingdeeper.org.
All right.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, we appreciate that. Well, listen, it's time again, so we're going to take about a 7-minute break, and we'll be back after these messages with my very excellent guest, Mark Pinkham,